Obviously, took a look at the film. I told you I was going to do that. We did some good things. Still concerned about our defensive efficiency watching the game. Give Michigan a lot of credit. They're a great offensive team. But we still have to find a way to slow opponents down better than we did the other day. We're fortunate. We executed pretty well on offense, and we shot a high percentage. One of our higher ones in Big Ten games for someone said a while. I don't know what that yet. That's DB the years or number or whatever. Can you count on shooting 64% every night in this league? Probably not going to happen a lot. So we've got to continue to hone in on our defense. I thought we took a step in the right direction in the second half. We were a little bit better, but guys know that's on my mind. It's certainly on their minds. We're talking a lot about it. We understand for us to continue to move forward and get better and grow, we've got to defend better and more consistently. Yesterday, a quick turnaround. I thought we played really hard Wednesday. So yesterday we had a weight lift, did some dynamic movement stuff with Fletch to get our bodies right, and started our mental preparation for Maryland. Today we'll do a little bit more physically as well as mentally. But it's time of year where you got 2 days in between the games, and they come fast, and I want to make sure we're mentally and physically, ready to play tomorrow at 5 o'clock. So it's always on our minds to kind of take care of their bodies and minds. They gave good effort the other night. We just need to continue to have a little bit more edge to us defensively, execute a little bit better on that end. Questions? Yeah, he's back at practice today. So excited to have him back. I have conversations with my players a lot, often. So I know what's going on with all of them. That's my job. I love those guys. So I've had a lot of conversations with him and others over the last week. Yeah, I'm not going to address it any further. As I said the other day, it's personal, So I'm sensitive to that, and if it's personal to him, then it's personal to me. And it's going to stay that way. He is. Yeah, he's available.
This is the first time you've played somebody a second time here now. What has Maryland changed? It hadn't been that long ago. Has Maryland changed a little bit? I know they've got maybe somebody healthy.
Yeah, Dodd's probably the biggest change, Tup, and he brings a lot to their team. It's interesting watching him. He reminds me a lot defensively and rebounding, Tup, as Nana did. His effort, his shot blocking. I don't know what his numbers were the other night. DB can look them up for you, but he had several. They had 8 shot blocks as a team in the first half against Indiana. The bulk of them were by him. He's just really great at the rim defensively. He plays with a lot of energy on the glass. He's an older guy. I really have, as we've prepared here for game 2, knowing that he was playing, I've really appreciated it. It gave me flashbacks of the big fella, watching him play. Obviously, I got a lot of respect for Nana. I have a lot of respect for Dodd.
John, defensively, the dribble drive, it seems like you guys are really struggling with that. Just what do you see? What do you need more out of, containing
just got to
that?
keep it in front more. I wish it was tricky, Jeremy, or fancy or some formula or, we got to do a better job of keeping the ball in front. I've, showed them clips. It's not, Princeton offense concept or back screens or actions or something to try. You got to sit down and keep the ball in front. I know we've got our guys' attention here, especially over the last week, and they're working at it, but we've got to be better there.
You talked about how efficient the offensive was against Michigan, 21 assists on 34 makes. How much of that maybe was because of Tijon's presence? I mean, it just seemed like it flowed better when he had the ball.
Certainly helped, yeah. Great point. He certainly helped. He had 8 assists. I mean, obviously, a couple of the passes, he just made the right read. And then there was a couple of them I watched after the game where I had to rewind it again and be like, how in the world did he see that? That was 20 feet behind him. He saw the tag, So, yeah, he has a gift with that for sure, and he's still a work in progress. And consistency now comes into play for a young fella. And we've talked a lot about that with him and having the right mindset. He's a pretty tough kid, continuing to get better. He was up watching film in the office yesterday, working to continue to understand our defense better. As I said, obviously that's the hot topic right now. We've got to continue to get better there and he cares. He's learning, and he's getting better. In the back.
No Tate or Thorne Wednesday night. Was that kind of a flow of the game thing, or was that maybe more a mental day for them?
Flow of the game thing. You know, I certainly didn't go into the game saying that, hey, I'm not going to play him. That's not. We got to have everybody ready. Strength in numbers. I've said that before. I just felt like based on matchups and based on how well the guys were playing, you know, with Mike, and then obviously kind of the same thing with Tijon played that well. You know, I felt like he had earned the opportunity to be in the rotation a little bit earlier. Wasn't necessarily anything that Jay had done. Jay's played his role very, very well. We're going to need him, you know, moving forward. We got a lot of games left, and the other day was one game. And it's no different. I said the other day, you know, you can, you know, we got off to a bad start 2 games ago, and you can choose to say, well, that's, you know, boy, that's the end-all, be-all. Just relax. Okay, we got to figure that out. And then when you come back and we play as well as the other day, then you say, well, that's who you are all the time. We haven't proven that yet. You know, so let's deep breath here. You know, let's stay somewhere in the middle and keep working to get better and control what we can control every day. See if we can continue to play more consistently on offense, which we have. I really like what we're going there. And defensively, we got to get better. So we all know that. We've got to work really hard to continue to improve on that end.
Coach, you talked about consistency with the freshmen, been around a lot of different guys over the years. Maybe what is the biggest challenge when it comes to that with those specific guys?
Just a lack of experience, Derek. Nothing they really can control. You know, just trying to tell them, you know, things go well for you in one game, then, you know, you play 2 or 3 days later, you just can't show up and expect it to be the same. You have to prepare. You have to have a will to prepare that matches your will to win on the game night. Those guys have done that. I just want to continue to remind them that's our job, that's important. And, you know, obviously in the day and age that we live in, and you know, I'm happy for them, you know, with you guys doing the job that you have to do, you know, writing that they played as well as they did, and they did. You know, can you at times digest that a little bit more than maybe a vet would, and, you know, humility and – you know, that's where, you know, we got to help them. And both those guys are pretty humble guys to begin with, but just making sure we stay, as I mentioned, with the games from game to game. Somewhere in the middle. You got to stay in the middle. You know, just stay in the middle, do what we do, try to do it as well as we can and consistently as well as we can.
John, I was interested to hear you talk about Maverick a little bit. You know, it seems like big guys sometimes develop a little more slowly, and maybe it isn't until the 3rd year when you see things click in and
Sure.
and they start to get it. Could you just talk about what he's done and were there things where lights went on for him where now when you go out there, I mean, you've talked about wanting to see consistency from players, maybe as much as almost anybody you've got now. He's kind of giving you some consistency at his position.
He really has, Tup. He's improved. I think, you know, obviously, last year when we got put in the situation, which, you know, as I said before, necessarily wasn't enjoyable when we didn't have much depth and had guys out, and he got put in a situation where he got an opportunity a little bit more than normal, and he took advantage of that. I was really excited about how he finished the season last year, and then I think that really spurned him, Tup, into having just a great offseason. Whether it was, you know, he went to train when he was back at home at IMG or, you know, on his own. He made that decision on his own, you know. Wanted to invest more, the way he approached the spring, the way he approached the summer. You know, I think he started to see, you know, success kind of breeds success. You hear that? And I think that motivated him, had a great offseason, and has just continued to really climb and improve. But you're right. He's been consistent so far for the most part, and he needs to continue to be that for us. And really, you know, he's consistent at both ends of the floor. When I look at all the different things analytically, you know, his impact on the game, you know, both offensively and defensively is very solid.
John, Jalen Coleman-Lands, is he becoming a more dynamic offensive player? Like, what have you seen out of his evolution?
I think he's, you know, I mentioned this the other day. I mean, really what he's done is amazing because he really hasn't had a full training. You know, we beat that like a dead horse, and I can't emphasize that enough. That's hard for, I'm looking forward to him having, obviously, that's down the road, but getting a chance to get full training with no limitations at all, hopefully God will bless us with that type of outcome for him. But in the meantime, right now, I think what you see is a guy that's getting better every day, getting better defensively, starting to figure out, Jeremy, when to use the dribble. It's one thing to dribble; it's another thing to use it wisely. And the other day, I thought he used it pretty wisely. He had the behind the back pass Tijon threw where I told you I was about to tackle him, and then he had J. Cole had the one where he reloaded 3 times and drove it right into a gap that was crowded. They stole it and laid it in. Those are the ones we don't want. But he had 4 or 5 others that were really good plays. And I think he's figured out how to slow the game down a little bit with that. And I would agree with you. I think he's starting to have a feel for when to use that dribble. He had 4 assists at halftime the other day. I thought he was under control, jump stopped, wasn't rushed, didn't run in there and just throw up stuff like he might have in the past at the end of a dribble drive. I think he's getting better there. I would agree with you on that.
Coach, up here. Talking about specifically the lineup you went with, Mav starting, Lucas and Nichols getting way more minutes. That lineup and going with players like that with more minutes, specifically against Maryland, how do they match up a little different having those guys on the court, hoping that you have a different result against Maryland, especially, with the guard play that the Terps had against you?
Yeah, obviously they've got terrific guard play. I mean, the 2-point guards that they play together are very difficult to keep in front for any team. Okay, I've watched a ton of – they're very good. They make good decisions. They get in the lane. They can make others better. They can score the ball. They're very, very, very good. And you're right. Each game's different. I think it's a great point. Every team has its strengths, more so maybe in a certain area than others and vice versa. And obviously the big challenge is they've got great guard play. Dodd coming back makes them a little bit different. And then they're shooting the ball really well. I like their freshmen. Jackson had a great game in game 1. Herder has made big shots. In fact, I think he had a game between the first one and this one tomorrow where he made 7 threes. You look at his league stats from a shooting perspective, they're off the charts. Wiley, Nick can shoot the ball. I mean, they've got really good players. So it is different. They do play a little bit differently. It really starts with those 2 guards, and our guys are aware of that. Each game plan's different, for every team. We talked about that the other day. Guys did a good job executing what we wanted to get done the other day. Now this is a different one. We got 2 days. You got to digest it, and we got to make certain adaptations that we need to make heading into tomorrow's game because it is a different opponent.
Wednesday, Kipper got an offensive rebound on his own miss and didn't go to the floor before that. I mean, he did it in one move, and then Tijon can really play with pace. Did those guys give a little more athleticism, maybe?
Yeah, especially Tijon, especially laterally, is pretty gifted, Scott, moving his feet. And then Kipper's a good athlete, just period, in terms of running, jumping, moving laterally. Right now his ability to continue to get better, I think, has been as pronounced as, Jeremy was referring to J. Cole. I think that's happening with J. Cole. I think it's happening with Kipper. Now obviously we shot it really well the other day. I mentioned kind of seriously yet facetiously after the game. He did have 3 or 4 plays that he ran, low when it was supposed to be high and down when it was supposed to be up. And, so we got to figure that out. We can't do that. He knows that. He's been working really hard to learn and grasp the system, and he cares. And we'll continue to work with them. But I can live with that stuff when you play the type of effort he played with the other day on the glass. He dove on loose balls at Indiana. He defended the ball. He plays with great energy and enthusiasm, inspiring energy and enthusiasm, and that can be contagious, and in the meantime, we got to help him clean up a few things.
Coach talked about certain guys maybe not getting too high, but for some who maybe were struggling, LeRon getting some buckets the other night had to have been good for him.
Yeah, it was good, and they were good shots he took. Took a couple wild ones, but for the most part, Derek, they were pretty good ones, and he knocked them in. That was great. But I've always told him, like, his energy, his enthusiasm he plays with, the motor he plays with on a daily basis is inspiring for his teammates and the coaches. So just that alone, whether he makes a shot or not, is a game changer. Then you add his rebounding. You look at the Ohio State game. I don't know what he shot, but it wasn't great. but he had 15 rebounds. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, just he can find ways, I guess is my point, Derek, other than just throwing the ball in the hole, which we all want him to make every shot, but he has a gift with his enthusiasm, his motor, his energy, his rebounding, that he can impact and add value at a very high level without scoring a basket. And that's pretty unique.
Up until now, Big Ten's been road, home, road, home. How's it benefit you not having to get on a plane or a bus after Wednesday?
Well, we don't mind. I mean, we're unconditional with that. I mean, my wife likes it a lot, but, because that means I'm home, at least home most of the time really, really late. And last night I got home. She usually puts Kate in bed at 8:30, so I show up at 8:28. I'm hustling. I want to see Kate. She's already got her in bed, so she blamed that on poor communication. She said that's like you're trying to teach the guys transition defense, KB, communication, and you didn't communicate with me. It's a good lesson for you. So she's still teaching me lessons at age 45. But she likes it. But, we travel. The way we travel allows us to get in and out of there pretty quickly. So, but it's nice. It's great to be home from the standpoint of playing in front of our fans. I thought our fans were good the other day. I thought they were great in the Ohio State game. They know when to get loud. I've always said that. They've been great. We really appreciate them. As Malcolm said, the ones that have supported us through thick and thin. We feel them and we appreciate them more than they know. So we're thankful for that. Phone lines. Okay, thanks, guys.